Once upon a time, in a village so small that its name never made it onto any map, an old woman lived alone in a crooked little house near the edge of the woods. Her roof sagged, her garden grew weeds more loyal than flowers, and her laughter had long since moved out. Every morning she lit her fire, stirred her pot, and muttered to herself that life was simpler when the world stayed in one place and didn't keep changing its mind. One chilly morning she set a pot over the fire, planning to boil some beans for her breakfast. The pot was old, its sides blackened from years of use, its handle hanging by a single screw, but it did its job well enough. The old woman poured in the beans, a handful of straw for kindling, and a lump of coal to keep the fire going. When the first bubbles rose, she crouched close, sighed, and said to the pot, "Don't you dare burn anything today." I'm too tired to start over, but the pot had other plans. There was a sharp crack, then a puff, and suddenly the kitchen filled with smoke. The coal, tired of its endless burning, jumped out of the fire and rolled toward the door. The straw, scorched at the edges, fluttered after it like a yellow ribbon in a gust of wind. One stubborn bean bounced right out of the pot and landed next to them with a squeak that sounded suspiciously like, "Ow!" The old woman shrieked and reached for her broom, but by the time she swung it, the three little escapees had rolled, skipped, and blown themselves right out the door and into the wide, bewildering world. The coal, who liked to think of himself as the leader, spoke first once they caught their breath near a fence post. "Friends," he declared in a crackling baritone, "we've all suffered under the tyranny of that kitchen. It's time we took charge of our own destinies." The straw straightened proudly, bits of soot still clinging to his sides. "Here, here. I was meant for more than kindling. I've always felt combustible potential." The bean, round and shiny, nodded eagerly. "And I was born to be more than breakfast. But where do we go?" The coal considered this, sparks popping softly from his surface. "Wherever the wind allows," he said grandly. "We shall travel together and see what fortune brings." So off they went, the coal glowing faintly like a heartbeat in the dark, the straw swaying lightly in the breeze, and the bean bouncing along behind them with a rhythm all his own. They made an odd trio, but a cheerful one, and for a while their laughter carried farther than their sense of direction. The first challenge came soon enough. A stream crossed their path, a narrow ribbon of water glittering under the morning sun. It wasn't wide, but to them it looked like a sea. "How shall we cross?" asked the bean, staring nervously at the current. "If I fall in, I'll swell up and split." The coal puffed indignantly. "And if I go in," he said, "I'll go out forever." The straw bent thoughtfully, though his knees creaked when he did. "Gentlemen," he said, "I've got the answer. I shall lay myself across the water like a bridge, and you two may pass safely over me." "Brilliant," said the coal, who never turned down an idea that wasn't his. "Heroic," said the bean, who admired courage from a safe distance. The straw stretched himself from one bank to the other, trembling slightly but proud of his engineering. The coal went first, stepping gingerly onto the straw, his glow bright with determination. "Steady now," the straw warned. "No sudden moves." But halfway across, the coal began to smolder hotter from the strain. "A fine bridge," he said, trying to sound calm, "but it's getting a bit warm." A thin wisp of smoke rose. Then, with a hiss and a pop, the straw caught fire. "Hot! Hot! Hot!" yelled the coal, dancing frantically, until he slipped and fell straight into the water. There was a brief "shh," and then nothing. The coal was gone, out, extinguished, his grand speeches snuffed like a candle. The straw burned in a flash, then crumbled into floating ash. Only the bean remained, staring at the smoking riverbank, trembling so hard that he split down the middle with a loud pop. "Oh, no!" he cried, clutching his sides. "This is it. I'm finished." But luck, being the mischievous creature it is, had other plans. At that exact moment, a tailor came strolling along the river path, humming to himself about a jacket he had to mend and a pie he meant to eat. When he heard the bean's tiny sobs, he stopped and bent down. "Well, what have we here?" he said. "A talking bean? Don't see that every day." He picked up the poor split bean, shook his head sympathetically, and decided to sew him up. Pulling out his needle and a black thread, he carefully stitched the tear across the bean's middle, humming all the while. "There you go," said the tailor when he was done. "As good as new. A fine job, if I say so myself." The bean touched the seam on his belly and sniffled. "Thank you, kind sir. You've saved me." "Think nothing of it," said the tailor, tucking his needle away. "But take care, little one. The world's not always kind to those who wander." With that, the tailor walked on, leaving the bean sitting beside the quiet stream. The bean sighed, looking at the ashes floating away and the ripples fading. The world felt enormous again, but also, somehow, possible. He looked down at the neat black seam stitched across his belly and smiled a little. "Not bad," he said, "not bad at all." And that is why, to this day, beans have a tiny black line down their middles, a little reminder that even foolish adventures can leave marks worth keeping.